So this is Amy for Sports Centred. I'm really pleased to be joined by Lima Sopaonga. Lima, how you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks, Amy. Appreciate it. Looking forward to this chat with you.
Yeah, no, really looking forward to it. Like I say, I was a massive Wasps fan, so really good to have a chat with you and talk about your career as a rugby player and sort of what you're hoping to do when you finally look to hang up the boots for good. So as I mentioned, you've sort of played across a couple of continents since you started. So we'll start off with your New Zealand journey. Obviously, you started off with Wellington, didn't you, in 2010, I think it was? And then your sort of career properly started with the Highlanders, isn't that right?
Yeah, so 2010, I finished school in 2009, and then 2010 played club rugby in Wellington, and Jamie Joseph was coaching the Wellington Lions at the time, and he yeah, sort of picked me up from club rugby and then played played Wellington Lions, and then halfway through the season, he was going down to the Highlanders, and he decided to take me and a few of us with him. At the time, the Highlanders was a pretty rubbish team, sort of wooden spooners, and he couldn't really get anyone to go down there, so he just enticed a whole bunch of young kids to go down, who he had kind of maybe hoped would turn into something, and yeah, kind of just took my talents down there, and then I guess the rest is history.
Obviously, you had good success with the Highlanders, didn't you? You won the championship in 2015, wasn't it? The Super Rugby Championship title.
Yeah, we did. So got there in 2010, and took us 5 years, and then we finally sort of yeah got the reward, climbed the mountain. Took a wee while. Sort of fell off the cliff a few times and had to get back up, but we ended up climbing that mountain in 2015 and making it all work.
And then obviously you made your All Blacks debut as well against South Africa. Obviously, a lot of people say that sort of it's one of the best debuts for a fly half for New Zealand as well. How did it feel, obviously, making your debut against a massive team like South Africa as well, and obviously playing so well in that game?
Yeah, we were playing in Joburg, and I'd played there throughout my career, going back and forth with Super Rugby. But it's a different beast when you're playing, the South Africans in South Africa, and on top of that, you're playing the Springboks, and then you're playing at Ellis Park, and then you're playing for the All Blacks. So there's so much history, so much rivalry, so much pressure. And I don't know, I guess for me as a 24-year-old kid at the time, I'd kind of already seen this so many times in my dreams. I'd like dreamed and hoped that I would make this debut, or, wear this jersey one day. And it sort of felt surreal. It almost felt like I had already been there, because that's what I had wished for so many nights as a kid going to bed. But yeah, it was surreal. It went like 80 minutes, felt like 2 minutes, and it felt like I could run all day. So yeah, it's one of those moments where you look back and you think, wow, that was a pretty amazing time, and something that I really look forward to, really look back on with fond memories.
How do you sort of deal with that sort of pressure? Obviously, wearing an All Blacks jersey is there's enough pressure on you as it is, especially in your position as fly half as well. How do you deal with that sort of pressure? Do you just sort of just focus on it minute by minute, or do you just how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I guess um, at the time I was probably sort of young and naive, and you kind of just jump on this ride and this roller coaster and just are like, oh, we'll see where it goes, and just enjoy the thrill and the excitement of it all. And that's kind of what it was like for myself, and probably many others at the time. It's like, you don't know when this ride's going to end, so you might as well enjoy it to the best of your ability, and have fun while you're doing it. So that's what I did, and that's what I really enjoyed. And yeah, it was a special time in my life.
And talking of pressure, you obviously then made sort of a really big money move to Wasps in 2018. obviously there was a lot of pressure on you coming to Wasps. Obviously, you're a massive name signing as well. How did you find that? I know obviously there was a lot of criticism sometimes of you when you came to the UK, but obviously as a Wasps fan personally, obviously I always thought you played very well. You always put your body on the line for the team. Was it hard sometimes dealing with that sort of pressure, obviously moving yourself and your family across the world as well to a new country for the first time?
Yeah, I think when I look back on my time at WAS, I really could have done things a lot better as like on a personal level. And I look back and think, oh, maybe I could have just come there and fit into the English game more rather than try and fit the English game around me more. And coming from successful environment like the All Blacks and the Highlanders, it was probably the wrong type of attitude to have. But there were problems at the club already, and there was a lot of things going on, and the before I got there, and those problems obviously came to a head. I guess what was it, in 2020 or 2021 when the club sadly went bust. So yeah, it was the year that I ended up leaving Wasp. They ended up going under, which was incredibly sad for not only the players but staff, fans, support people, people who love the team. The history's just gone up in smoke. So yeah, there's things I wish I had done better, and I also believe like the club could have done better by not only myself but other players who come over to play overseas. It's not as easy as just, paying them money and making sure that they play well. You've got to actually make sure they're settled and things like that. And I don't know if that sort of support was around not only myself but others at the time. But like in terms of like the boys and people I met and things I got to experience in the UK, it was definitely a better. I was better for the experience, and yeah, got to meet some amazing people and some people that I call friends for life. So, it's rugby's a crazy journey, and it's one of those things that I ended up yeah, enjoying in parts and not enjoying in some parts. So, but that's such as life.
Yeah, what would you say was sort of the biggest difference for you? I know obviously you were saying clubs need to do better, and I think clubs across the world need to do better at supporting overseas players. But what were the biggest differences you found, obviously, not just professionally, but personally, sort of moving across the country and obviously trying to deal with a whole different way of life? What did you find hardest about that?
Oh, the weather was fucking horrible.
It's
Holy
just right.
moly, it is so grim. Like someone said to me, "Oh, be careful with seasonal depression," and I laughed, and I was probably depressed for like the whole 3 years I was there. It was that bad. Um, but yeah, it's just different culture, different way of living. Um, yeah, like I said, like everything's different. Even though it's all English speaking, everything's foreign. Like way you do banking, supermarkets, like all these little things that you're used to become so foreign, and can be a bit stressful, especially when you've got a young family and you're on the other side of the world.
Yeah, and obviously you were quite lucky, I suppose, in an aspect when you joined Wasps, you had quite a good sort of Kiwi contingent, didn't you? You had likes of Jeff Tamalga Allen, Brad Shield. Did that sort of, and Jimmy Goffer, did that sort of help you settle in slightly, having sort of some of the guys who knows what it's like to live in New Zealand and obviously be annoyed at the weather here when you joined?
Yeah, yeah, it was. It's obviously easier, and we had some good foreigners there. The likes of Willie LaRue and Nathan Hughes, and even some of the English boys were awesome. Christian Wade and Marcus Watson, Billy Searle all became like really good friends. So yeah, it definitely makes it easier when you have people who are from your home country all the way on the other side of the world, sort of in that same journey with you.
Yeah, and obviously you then made the move across to Lyon as well in France. Obviously, moving your family again and yourself to a country, obviously a foreign speaking country, speaking French. Was that quite challenging as well? Obviously, trying to deal with the language barrier as well.
Yeah, it was, but honestly, I loved France. I think France is, I hope more players go out and play in France. It's such a beautiful cultural experience. Beautiful food, beautiful cheese, beautiful wine. Um,
Best ever.
the rugby's obviously very hard, but it's just that sort of European style way of living outside of rugby was so much better for me and my family, and we loved it. We loved it immensely, and it was a super cool time.
Yeah, obviously there's been a lot of English players who have moved across to France, haven't they? Obviously, France notoriously pay better wages. Like I said, it's a better way of living. But do you think sometimes, obviously, I know in the English game, England won't select players if they're not playing in England. Do you think that's something World Rugby need to look at, obviously, because they're disadvantaging players, potentially experiencing new things, earning more money as well in what could be a really short career?
Yeah, I'm not too, I'd like to see more players play overseas and play international rugby, but um, I'm not sure how that affects the game. I mean, obviously football's a bit different and guys can play anywhere they want and make a living and also play international football. So yeah, I'd love to see it change. I mean, it just means that you're missing out on guys who could otherwise be playing for your country. Like someone like Jack Willis. It's criminal that he's not in an England shirt. He's one of the best players in France, and he's playing in arguably the best team for
Yeah.
Toulouse. So and then you see other English players over there that are excelling and doing great things, and you just wonder like, is it worth having those sort of archaic standards where maybe they could be loosened off and the game benefits for it. I'm not sure, but I would personally like to see it loosened for more international teams.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, talking about your career once more, obviously, once you moved from France, you then went to Japan. What sort of experience was that like as well? Again, another foreign-speaking country, sort of moving your family across, but you played for the Sharks. How was that for you when you moved out there?
Yeah, it was crazy. Like Japan's just a utopia. It's a beautiful place. They have lovely standards and safe and it's clean. But yeah, it's probably the most confusing out of all three countries I think I've been to, but it was a beautiful experience and yeah, we made some lifelong friends and had some good experiences and then yeah, we decided to come home.
Yeah, so you're now playing for, I'm going to ruin the pronunciation. Was it Wakita? Wakata?
Yeah, Waikato.
Waikato. How was that for
Yeah.
you? Obviously, you're sort of playing in a sort of mentorship role. How are you finding that sort of as you progress through your career?
Yeah, we I really enjoyed it, as an older guy who's traveled around the world and seen a few things and played with some amazing players. It's just great to give back to some of these younger guys and help them and help them along the way on their career and sort of give all the knowledge that I've been able to acquire away. And I think that's been really cool as a player who's sort of nearing the end or, is at the end of his career.
So how many do you reckon you've still got another season or so in you, or do you think?
No, I think I'll probably hang them up. To be fair, it's been a hell of a ride, and there's other things that I sort of want to do, and got three beautiful young kids and wife who probably require more of my time now. So priorities change, and you've got to stop rugby at some point.
Yeah, and what do you think you'll look to do when you do hang up the boots? Sort of, will you look at coaching, or I know you went to the Creator Con the other day. Is sort of social media and punditry, is that sort of more of the side you're looking to get into?
Yeah, I'm not really too sure. You kind of throw enough shit at the wall, something's got to stick, doesn't it?
Yeah.
No, at the moment I'm just throwing shit at being a creator and punditry, and if I get bored of that, maybe I'll try and be a fireman or something. I'm not too sure, but at the moment it's just like a transition part of my life, and yeah, it's a different stage, but one that I am sort of really enjoying.
So you've obviously like been quite active on social media and things like that. Do you think that's something that not just rugby players, but professional athletes should do to try and market themselves? I guess, obviously, especially in like rugby, it could be a very short career and that could end pretty quickly as well. Do you think rugby players need to have that almost backup plan for them to that if
Uh,
obviously the career ends, they've got something in the bag?
yeah, I think for rugby players especially, like rugby players aren't football players or NBA players or, baseball players where you're earning, millions and millions of pounds to support you for the rest of your life, like it's like you said, it can be a short career, but you can use rugby as an avenue to build on what that looks like after rugby. And obviously keep rugby the main thing, like keep the main thing, and that's your rugby. But I think what a lot of athletes forget is rugby is just a small part of your life. It's what you do, it's not who you are. And whether you win a game or lose a game, you can still build that online presence. And I think sometimes it's about showing people your human side because everyone thinks that you're superhuman anyway because you play rugby for a living, but actually most people are just like the everyday Joe. They love going to the pub with their mates. They love, going to the horses at Cheltenham or, just, having a Sunday roast. Like rugby players aren't like robots where they're just professional athletes all the time. They're humans first, rugby players second. And so, I urge, especially young people, um, yeah, to take advantage of it because someone told me that automatically you get trust as a rugby player for no reason apart from the fact that you play rugby.
Mm.
And on that, you can build massive trust if you take people along on the ride with you. And that's something that, yeah, I think a lot of like women's rugby players do it really well because obviously they're not paid as much as men, so they have to find ways into these rooms, into these avenues. But I think, especially for rugby players, especially the ones that sort of aren't the number one dudes, like your Finn Russells or your Owen Farrells or, your Dan Carters, those guys are always going to sort of eat up major sponsorships and things like that, which is, fair play and well deserved. But for the majority of rugby players, like how can you build something, I guess, profitable post rugby if you're not one of those types of dudes? Because there's probably like 10 of those guys in the world. And
Mm.
so by building an online presence, I reckon you can capitalize on that for sure.
And what advice would you give to a sort of young rugby player starting out, not just obviously looking after yourself post rugby, but starting out in the game? What advice would you give them to how they could best sort of prolong their career and just enjoy it as well?
Yeah, I think it's yeah, don't go to the pub too often. That's a start. Even though that's really, really fun. Um, but yeah, it's just the kids these days are too smart, that everything's at their fingertips. They understand, they see more of all the good things. Whereas, probably I was the last of the breed to come through when there was no social media. So what we were up to was, you know, probably not the best for our bodies and best for the recovery, but it was good for the memories. But yeah, most of these kids these days, they're too smart. They've got too many resources at their fingertips to not know what to do. And I think probably one thing I'd say to them is just enjoy the ride. Enjoy it as much as you can. You don't know when it's going to stop. And yeah, if you're lucky to get sort of 17 years like I was, then fair play to you. But not everyone is able to get that.
No, thank you so much for your time, Lima. I really appreciate it. And obviously, enjoy it when you do hang up the boots. Enjoy the time with your missus and the three kids as well.
Nah, no worries, Amy. Absolute pleasure talking to you. Thanks so much and good luck with your sports channel.
Cheers. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
No worries. Have a blessed day. See you later.
Have a good evening. Bye.
See you. Bye.